Hello and welcome to another Lamb Bible Study. My name is James and I will continue to be your host and Bible reader of Lamb Bible Study. It's another great day. Super excited. I couldn't wait to start Lamb Bible Study today. And so these Lamb Bible Studies do come out every Tuesday and Thursday. And I pray that we continue to seek God's wisdom through His holy word. And so let's get started. It's been a very busy day. We are currently in Genesis, chapter 41 is where we will be starting off, and I'm currently reading from a Collegiate NIV Bible. We also, just to give you some information, we're currently talking about Joseph, or discussing about Joseph. And Joseph is actually going to finish up Genesis for us, about his life and what he went through and how the Lord used him. And I know that last Bible study we were talking about favorites, but the Lord can use anybody and anybody that He chooses. And so we'll see that Joseph may have been looked at by his brothers as being someone that may have been cocky when he could. Maybe that was not his character, or maybe that wasn't. Maybe it was the brothers being jealous. But, things went from Joseph being his father's favorite and him getting a special embroidered clothing to being sold into slavery, almost killed first, and then sold and sent to Egypt, and then working for Potiphar. And then unfortunately Potiphar's wife decided that she wanted to try to bed with him, and so since Joseph refused, he ended up in prison. And so now the previous story we also talked about the cupbearer and the baker that were in Pharaoh's prison with him, and how Joseph interpreted the dreams accurately. So let's go ahead and get started with Genesis chapter 41. Pharaoh's dreams. When 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh had a dream. He was standing by the Nile, when out of the river there came up 7 cows, sleek and fat, and they grazed among the reeds. After them 7 other cows, ugly and gaunt, came up out of the Nile and stood beside those on the river bank. And the cows that were ugly and gaunt ate up the 7 sleek, fat cows. Then Pharaoh woke up. He fell asleep again and had a second dream. 7 heads of grain, healthy and good, were growing on a single stalk. After them 7 other heads of grain sprouted, thin and scorched by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 healthy, full heads. Then Pharaoh woke up. It had been a dream. In the morning his mind was troubled, so he sent for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but no one could interpret them for him. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, "Today I am reminded of my shortcomings. Pharaoh was once angry with his servants, and he imprisoned me and the chief baker in the house of the captain of the guard. Each of us had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. Now, a young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us, giving each man the interpretation of his dream. And things turned out exactly as he interpreted them to us. I was restored to my position, and the other man was hanged." So, just a reminder as well, the Lord was with Joseph through all of his trouble and all of his hardships. And Joseph also kept faith. And so Joseph was accurately able to interpret these dreams. And also because he was being watched by the Lord, everything he did became fruitful, became good. And so when he was with Potiphar, Potiphar put him over all of his possessions. And then when he was sent to prison, he was put over all of the prison duties because everything that he did was blessed. And we've talked about this in a previous Bible study. When you're walking in the way, you're blessed, and others will be blessed by you. And that blessing will continue to flow. And people that are not following in the way or don't know about the Lord will question. They'll come to you and they'll say, well, why are you so happy? What makes myself, what makes you so happy? Or what makes you so happy, and how everything just flows together? And the answer is the Lord. It's Jesus. And so when I notice that, when people say, James, you're always happy, and I say, it's the Lord. It's Jesus. And sometimes I go, oh, well, yeah, amen. But I'm very serious. It's not a joke. It's not something to be taken even lightly, because it's something serious to me. Because without the Lord, there are no blessings. There is no peace. And so just over what we just went over, and how the cupbearer is just now remembering Joseph, let's not forget that the Lord never forgets about us. And everything has its own time. And that's also in the Bible, and we'll talk about that as well. But what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your head about Joseph's situation and how things are going, and how the cupbearer, after some time, some years, remember Joseph? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. When he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and no one can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. I cannot do it, Joseph replied to Pharaoh, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. Perfect answer. Perfect answer. Yeah, Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge. But do we understand? Do we comprehend that knowledge? Do we even have full knowledge? Are our thoughts the same as the Lord's? No. So him knowing who he is and being humble said, I cannot do these things. I cannot interpret those dreams. But God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. And that goes the same today. We understand, or we want to understand by growing in wisdom, that we can't do these things. It's the Lord. The Lord provides the air. The Lord provides you with the knowledge to do things, with the energy to do things, or get things done, or do what you need to do to obtain the energy, or provide the energy outright. It's the Lord. Let's continue to read. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, in my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile, when out of the river there came up 7 cows, fat and sleek, and they grazed among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows came up, scrawny and very ugly and lean. I had never seen such ugly cows in all the land of Egypt. The lean, ugly cows ate up the 7 fat cows that came up first, but even after they ate them, no one could tell that they had done so. They looked just as ugly as before. Then I woke up. In my dream, I also saw 7 heads of grain, full and good, growing on a single stalk. After them, 7 other heads sprouted, withered and thin, and scorched by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 good heads. I told this to the magicians, but none could explain it to me. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one and the same. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. The 7 lean, ugly cows that came up afterward are 7 years, and so are the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine. It is just as I said to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow them. Then all the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. The abundance in the land will not be remembered because the famine that follows it will be so severe. The reason the dream was given to Pharaoh in 2 forms is that the matter has been firmly decided by God, and God will do it soon. So a quick pause, a brief pause. So we got to think about everything that was going on. So you're like, okay, so what's the reasoning for this? There's a lot of reasoning. For one, he's in Egypt. They worship Pharaoh as God. They had other gods. So could this be potentially just punishment? Also, there was a reason that a famine needed to happen that we're going to read about very soon, because Joseph is going to be utilized. And remember, all the way back in the beginning, on the previous Bible study, from the start of Joseph himself had dreams. And we know what those dreams are, but those dreams have not came into fruition. They haven't happened. So things have to happen, or may happen, in order to fulfill a prophecy, to fulfill what's supposed to be. And that can be looked at as in our life too. We have time on earth, and sometimes bad things happen to us in order for us to grow. Are bad things bad? Absolutely. Are they necessary? No. However, sometimes bad things do happen due to our actions, our thought process. Sometimes things are not our own fault. Sometimes they are unfortunate circumstances. But fully relying on God and giving him the glory and humbling ourselves and asking for help and allowing him to help us can show who we really are. It can show that we can humble ourselves and that we can worship the Lord correctly without bringing in our own pride, without bringing in our own thoughts of right and wrong, because man's thought is not correct. So what are your thoughts so far? What Joseph has said, he relied on God, and he's also telling Pharaoh that God has told him what will happen to the land and to him, to the people, that they will have 7 years of abundance and then 7 years of famine. What kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? I know this story of Joseph is like, it's a lot, and it can be in depth, and then you have different adaptions of it, whether it be plays or movies or what have you. So there's a lot of substance. And that's what happens in the Bible. Stories have to be told in the Bible, and they're true stories. These things actually happen. They're not fictional. It's to use real life situations so that we understand a little bit more, that we can comprehend and relate to our life. And so when you look at the Old Testament, or you look at stories in the Bible, some people can consider it difficult to compare. But when you actually look at it and you start to let that wisdom flow in and start comprehending, it's it starts to be understood to modern day. How even now you can have dreams, how people can have dreams, and how you can now, even now, pray about those dreams if you don't understand them and get an understanding directly from the Lord. How it can affect your life, how your decisions affect your life. Do we choose to humble ourselves and ask for God for assistance? Because, man, we can't do everything, but the Lord, everything's possible with the Lord. Nothing is possible with man. So do I do that in life on decisions, no matter how simple they are? How does it make you feel and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man, and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take a fifth of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years that are coming and store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh to be kept in the cities for food. This food should be held in reserve for the country to be used during the 7 years of famine that will come upon Egypt, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine. The plan seemed good to Pharaoh and to all his officials. So Pharaoh asked them, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one who is discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders." I just got chills. "Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you." So Joseph literally just went from, being a favorite child, whether he liked it or not, to being sold off, being mistreated by his brothers, being sold off to slavery, to taken from his homeland all the way down to Egypt. And now we're seeing that he was thrown into prison and spent time there. And now he literally went from the bottom. It's one of those things, from the bottom to the top. He just in one moment. Think about that. He literally went from someone who was a prisoner all the way to being second in charge of the entire land of Egypt. What with all it comes with, money, power, whatever. You have fairy tales about people who, and sometimes some are not necessarily fairy tales, but I'm talking about, like, in general, you have fairy tales where you have the person going from poor to magically becoming wealthy, or you have some real life stories where people are poor and then they are not poor anymore. They either happen upon wealth, or they get a job, or they create something, and that happens. So let's think about that for ourselves. Because even small things, even your progression in life or your career, do you take time to think about it? Like, this thing just happened to me. Wow, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. Do you acknowledge God? Do you thank Jesus? Do you say, "This is amazing. Thank you so much, Jesus"? Do you thank you, God? Or are you still in shock and awe? Or do you just take it upon yourself, like, finally I'm getting somewhere. Is that being grateful? Is that being thankful? There's a lot to think about here because the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. So there's a lot to think about within our lives, within other lives. Do we take for granted that, or do we acknowledge that to the Lord and thank Him and understand what awesomeness He is? Like, understand that when we feel that we are at our lowest and when we feel that we are not succeeding, the Lord is already preparing a way for us. So just right here, we're seeing his dreams that he had when he was young. And it can take years for this to happen too. You know, it could be a lesson of on patience as well for us, because we always want things right now. Especially today, we want things so right now. We want same day shipping. What I want to be the head of a CEO. I want to go from making nothing to a trillionaire right now. You know, so you got to think about that. And if the opportunity happened like that overnight or immediately for you, I know you're going to have that shock. You're going to have that just all those feelings. Also, make sure to think about the Lord and giving God the glory. So, with that, with Pharaoh putting Joseph over everything, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Joseph in charge of Egypt. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride in a chariot as his second in command, and men shouted before him, Make way! Thus he put him in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, but without your word no one will lift hand or foot in all Egypt. Pharaoh gave Joseph the name Zephaniah, and gave him Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, to be his wife. And Joseph went throughout the land of Egypt. So, side note, he got given a wife from a priest of On. You know, some other god, you know, that's not a real god, just fake, you know, made by human. Maybe some gold over some wood or stone. But let's continue to read. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from Pharaoh's presence and traveled throughout Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance, the land produced plentifully. Joseph collected all the food produced in those 7 years of abundance in Egypt and stored it in the cities. In each city, he put the food grown in the fields surrounding it. Joseph stored up huge quantities of grain, like the sand of the sea. It was so much that he stopped keeping record because it was beyond measure. Remember, when the Lord starts blessing, man, the cup overfloweth. I know you know of a time when those blessings come, they just pour. They pour over. That's how it always is. That's how it always is. It's the Lord gives us gives abundantly. And think about that. So you have blessings and you start getting that, and then they, for some reason, they stop, right? And you're thinking, could even think about blaming like, Lord, I needed these. That's not the right thought. You're almost being checked. You're almost being, hey, your pride was getting there. Your thoughts process was getting incorrect, so I'm going to have to make a correction. And so what we see here, though, in Egypt is it's begun. The abundance has begun, and Joseph is up to the task because he's letting the Lord lead him. And he has that faith. He has faith. We have that faith. We can have that faith easily. Let's continue to read. Before the years of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph by Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. Joseph named his firstborn Manasseh and said, "It is because God has made me forget all my trouble in all my father's household." The second son he named Ephraim and said, "It is because God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering." So it's still referring to her as Asenath, daughter, side note, Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, a priest of On. Could she have watched Joseph and kind of maybe started to convert, or mixed religion, maybe, or start converting over? Maybe. But she was being blessed because of Joseph, as you can see. And maybe she started becoming a believer too. I'm not sure. So let's continue to read. The 7 years of abundance in Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had said. There was famine in all the other lands, but in the whole land of Egypt there was food. When all Egypt began to feel the famine, the people cried to Pharaoh for food. Then Pharaoh told all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph and do what he tells you." When the famine had spread over the whole country, Joseph opened the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe throughout Egypt. And all the countries came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph, because the famine was severe in all the world. Remember, you're blessed. Others are blessed by you, including other nations. Says a lot. Says a lot about us as a people. It says a lot about when we are following the way, relying on Jesus correctly, we are blessed, and our blessing blesses others. Reading over these passages, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? It's always this camera thing. There we go. I think it moved on me a little bit. Let's continue to read. Joseph's brothers go to Egypt. When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you just keep looking at each other?" I'm going to say something here. He continued, "I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there, buy some for us, so that we may live and not die." Why do you just keep looking at each other? Okay. So first thing, I have large family that I'm a part of. So the first thing that comes to my mind is when something needs to be done. Does that happen? Absolutely. when we were younger, for you're in a group. For those people who have families, you understand that. For those who don't have large families like that, think of it in other ways. You're at work. You're a part of a group. Something needs to be done. Manager comes in. Y'all look at each other. Let's say you weren't you are the manager. You observe that. You are the parent. You observe that. You are owner of a company, and you start getting a lot of orders. You're looking around. If you're the only person there, you're looking around. You're looking. If there's a mirror, it's going to be looking back at you. Oh, it's you looking at you. Why? What are you doing? Why? You know this information. You know. So God's giving you some information, right? Why are you just sitting there? Why are you not stepping? Why are you not getting up and doing something about it? For me, this Bible study right here, this Bible study, there was just too long of a length. I used to do lots of different things, whether it be Sunday school, Bible studies, children's church, vacation Bible schools. There was always something that was going on. Youth, helping with youth, helping with music, even choir and all that good stuff. Sunday schools, you name it. And then there was a slowdown of that, right? And then other things happen. People want to say life happens. No, it's things that are taking priority that shouldn't be taking priority. And you get to a point where you start yearning. Your soul yearns to do more. Your soul yearns to do. That's why we have people who go out and preach the gospel. We have missionaries and such. Your soul yearns to do more, and so Lamp Bible Study was one of those things that I had been wanting to do for the longest, and it just never. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know how to start it. I didn't know how to look on camera. I didn't know I've done it before. I've done camera. I've done all that stuff before, but it was way back when YouTube was nothing, So, what are you waiting for? What am I waiting? What was I waiting for? The battle was within me. It was literally me trying to get over me, also get over what the devil was trying to tell in my mind. No, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not clear. You don't speak clearly. Nobody's going to watch this. Nobody cares. Well, you said what you said, but I have a yearning and I have a direction that I'm being given, and I need to step forward. I need to do what I'm told, do what I'm yearning to do what I'm being led by the Spirit to do. And so here I am, Lamb Bible Study. And there's more things that I want to do. And so we can use that in our life too. What kind of thoughts or feelings do you have? How have you experienced that? Well, what are you waiting for? This on YouTube, so you can definitely always leave comments and such. Correct pronunciations, like I say, because I'm not always perfect with these pronunciations. So what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Then 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with the others, because he was afraid that harm might come to him. So Israel's sons were among those who went to buy grain, for the famine was in the land of Canaan also. Now Joseph was the governor of the land, the one who sold grain to all its people. So when Joseph's brothers arrived, they bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. The Lord gave Joseph a dream. He said, "This is your dream." Joseph interpreted it to his brothers. His brothers got angry and said, We're not going to bow to you. Joseph had another dream, told his parents. His parents, we're not going to bow to you. Complete fulfillment. It wasn't overnight. It was in God's timing. The famine happened for a reason. It happened for more than one reason. It probably happened because it needed to happen to Egypt. And God needed somebody there to show the people that he is real. He is God. And so now they know, oh, crap, there is God. And here's a follower. Let's make him in second command immediately. You know? And then you have, it's, you know, that famine was through the whole land. It affected everything. So now here you have it. Here you have it. So everything is coming into fulfilling. As soon as Joseph, let's continue to read. As soon as Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. "Where do you come from?" he asked. Now, Joseph probably had, it'd been many years. Joseph probably looked more like how Egyptians dressed and wore things and such, so he may have been harder to recognize. Maybe his voice even changed a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure. I wasn't back, wasn't alive back then. But, those little details we can think about, but they're not significant to they're obviously not significant to the truth of what's going on. Let's continue to read. From the land of Canaan, they replied, to buy food. Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. Then he remembered his dreams about them and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see where our land is unprotected." "No, my lord," they answered. "Your servants have come to buy food. We are all the sons of one man. Your servants are honest men, not spies." Oh, this is interesting. I mean, can you blame Joseph for acting angry? Now he's acting angry, so maybe he's not necessarily angry, but he's acting harshly to his brothers. And he also remembered the dream. He knows who these people are, but they don't even recognize him. He knows that these are his brothers. And then they had the nerve to just tell him that they were honest men. Who would have thunk it? So now Joseph's saying that they're spies. You're spies, right? So he's starting to play with them a little bit. "No," he said to them, "you have come to see where our land is unprotected." But they replied, "Your servants were 12 brothers, the sons of one man, who lives in the land of Canaan. The youngest is now with our father, and one is no more." Joseph said to them, "It is just as I told you. You are spies, and this is how you will be tested. As surely as Pharaoh lives, you will not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of your number to get your brother. The rest of you will be kept in prison, so that your words may be tested to see if you are telling the truth. If you are not, then as surely as Pharaoh lives, you are spies." And he put them all in custody for 3 days. Now look who's in prison. I wonder what thoughts and feelings are going through Joseph's head. You wonder what thoughts and feelings are going through the brother's head. A lot. What kind of thoughts or feelings are going through your head? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "Do this and you will live, for I fear God." Amen, right? "If you are honest men, let one of your brothers stay here in prison while the rest of you go and take grain back for your starving households. But you must bring your youngest brother to me, so that your words may be verified and that you may not die." This they proceeded to do. They said to one another, "Surely we are being punished because of our brother." Is it justified? Thoughts, feelings. Let's continue to read. "We saw how distressed he was when he pleaded with us for his life, but we would not listen. That's why this distress has come upon us." Reuben replied, "Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy? But you wouldn't listen. Now we must give an accounting for his blood." They did not realize that Joseph could understand them, since he was using an interpreter. Quick pause. Reuben wasn't there when they sold him. He thought he was still down in the whatever, and then the rest of his brothers did the whole blood and that dipped his Joseph's clothes in blood, and so that's anyways. So, and it's saying they did not realize that Joseph could understand them. So there's like talking in front of Joseph, and Joseph, could understand them. So Joseph was probably using an interpreter to speak to them, but he could understand them. So it's a lot. He turned away from them and began to weep, but then turned back and spoke to them again. He had Simeon taken from them and bound before their eyes. So, as you can see, there's a lot of emotion that Joseph has. And why he's doing these things, not sure, but we'll continue to read and find out. Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to put each man's silver back in his sack, and to give them provisions for their journey. After this was done for them, they loaded their grain on their donkeys and left. At the place where they stopped for the night, one of them opened his sack to get feed for his donkey, and he saw his silver in the mouth of his sack. "My silver has been returned," he said to his brothers. "Here it is in my sack." Their hearts sank, and they turned to each other trembling and said, "What is this that God has done to us?" They're blaming God? Not good. Not good. It's all the actions that they've done, and they're wow. I just had to take a moment on that one. When they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them. They said, "The man who is Lord over the land spoke harshly to us and treated us as though we were spying on the land. But we said to him, 'We are honest men.'" Lying. "We are honest men. We are not spies. We were 12 brothers, sons of one father. One is no more, and the younger is now with our father in Canaan." Lying as in they weren't originally honest. Maybe they're honest now. Obviously not if you're going to be blaming God. Then the man who is Lord over the land said to us, "This is how I will know whether you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me, and take food for your starving households and go. But bring your youngest brother to me, so I will know that you are not spies, but honest men. Then I will give your brother back to you, and you can trade in the land." As they were emptying their sacks, there in each man's sack was his pouch of silver. When they and their father saw the money pouches, they were frightened. Their father Jacob said to them, "You have deprived me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more. And now you want to take Benjamin? Everything is against me." Then Reuben said to his father, "You may put both of my sons to death if I do not bring him back to you. Entrust him to my care, and I will bring him back. Wow. So they have changed. They're putting others before themselves. And I know that Reuben he loves his children, but he's literally trying to do whatever he can to convince his father at this time. But Jacob said, "My son will not go down there with you. His brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm comes to him on the journey you are taking, you will bring my gray head down to the grave in sorrow." So was Benjamin the new favorite? But as they can see, their actions and what they've done is not pleasing to their father. Their father still has issues to this day with what has happened to his son. He's still grieving, basically. And so there's a lot here to think about. Yes, the brothers are trying to make things right, but at the same time, there's still a little bit of an issue there. They're still questioning God, why, God is putting them through this. Do they deserve something like this? What kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. The second journey to Egypt. Now the famine was still severe in the land. So when they had eaten all the grain they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go back and buy us a little more food." But Judah said to him, "The man warned us solemnly, 'You will not see my face again unless your brother is with you.'" Interesting. Judah. Remember Judah? Judah, the one that was going to throw him down, was thinking about killing him, then decided against it and said, "Hey, let's sell him." Now look at him. He's like stepping up. Something's changed. "If you will send our brother along with us, we will go down and buy food for you. But if you will not send him, we will not go down, because the man said to us, 'You will not see my face again unless your brother is with you.'" Israel asked, "Why did you bring this trouble on me by telling the man you had another brother?" They replied, "The man questioned us closely about ourselves and our family. 'Is your father still living?' he asked us. 'Do you have another brother?' We simply answered his questions. How were we to know he would say, 'Bring your brother down here'?" Then Judah said to Israel his father, "Send the boy along with me, and we will go at once, so that we and you and our children may live and not die. I myself will guarantee his safety. You can hold me personally responsible for him." There's a huge change. "If I do not bring him back to you and set him here before you, I will bear the blame before you all my life. As it is, if we had not delayed, we could have gone and returned twice." Huge change in Judah, as you can see. Remember, we already had a little bit of story about Judah, how things got switched up on him too, and how now he's changed. We also know, for those who have read the Bible, what comes from Judah, the Lion of Judah. Jesus comes from the line of Judah, one of the 12 tribes. Let's continue to read. Then their father Israel said to them, "If it must be, then do this. Put some of the best products of the land in your bags and take them down to the man as a gift, a little balm and a little honey, some spices and myrrh, some pistachio nuts and almonds. Take double the amount of silver with you, for you must return the silver that was put back into the mouths of your sacks. Perhaps it was a mistake. Take your brother also, and go back to the man at once. And may God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, so that he will let your other brother and Benjamin come back with you. As for me, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved." So now Israel's relying on God again. He brings you back. He brings you back. If you forget about him, he brings you back. no matter what, crawling, begging, whatever, he brings you back to acknowledge him, to acknowledge the Lord, to give him his justified due praise. If it wasn't for him, you wouldn't be here. Period. We wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. And by acknowledging him, by acknowledging his son, died for our sins, we can be with him for eternity. So there may be a death in this life, but that's not the end of us. That's not the end of our soul. We go on to eternity, and eternity is either with the Lord, you accept Jesus, or without the Lord. And without the Lord, it's not one of those things that, it's not a quick death or a quick, it's not, it's eternity without him. And so, and he doesn't want that for us at all. He wants to bless us. He wants to give us things. He wants to do things for us. He wants us to be with him. And that's why he sent his son. Everything points to Jesus. Everything. What kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? The humbling, the changing of Judah, the changing of Reuben, the changing of Israel. How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? We're probably going to go over again. Just a fair warning. Let's continue to read. So the men took the gifts and double the amount of silver, and Benjamin also. They hurried down to Egypt and presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of his house, "Take these men to my house, slaughter an animal, and prepare dinner. They are to eat with me at noon." The man did as Joseph told him, and took the men to Joseph's house. Now the men were frightened when they were taken to his house. They thought, "We were brought here because of the silver that was put back into our sacks the first time. He wants to attack us and overpower us and seize us as slaves and take our donkeys." I mean, if you were in that situation, similar situation, would you feel the same? So they went up to Joseph's steward and spoke to him at the entrance of the house. "Please, sir," they said, "we came down here the first time to buy food. But at the place where we stopped for the night, we opened our sacks, and each of us found his silver, the exact weight, in the mouth of his sack. So we have brought it back with us. We have also brought additional silver with us to buy food. We don't know who put our silver in our sacks." "It's all right," he said. "Don't be afraid. Your God, the God of your father, has given you treasure in your sacks. I received your silver." Then he brought Simeon out to them. Interesting. The steward took the men into Joseph's house, gave them water to wash their feet, and provided fodder for their donkeys. They prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon, because they had heard that they were to eat there. When Joseph came home, they presented to him the gifts they had brought into the house, and they bowed down before him to the ground. He asked them how they were, and then he said, "How is your aged father you told me about? Is he still living?" They replied, Your servant, our father, is still alive and well." And they bowed low to pay him honor. As he looked about and saw his brother Benjamin, his own mother's son, he asked, "Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about?" He said, "God be gracious to you, my son." Deeply moved at the sight of his brother, Joseph hurried out and looked for a place to weep. He went into his private room and wept there. After he had washed his face, he came out and, controlling himself, said, "Serve the food." They served him by himself, the brothers by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because Egyptians could not eat with the Hebrews, for that is detestable to Egyptians. The men had been, so take note of this. I'm going to read it again, because take note of this. This is going to play a huge role, especially when it comes time for Exodus. So you have to go back to that Lamp Bible study in Exodus and find out why that is, that you want to take note. They served him by himself, the brothers by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because Egyptians cannot eat with Hebrews, for that is detestable to Egyptians. Then men who had been seated the men who had been seated before him in the order of their ages, from the firstborn to the youngest, and they looked at each other in astonishment. When portions were served to them from Joseph's table, Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as anyone else's. So they feasted and drank freely with him. So, how would you feel in your life? Do you know of a situation where you didn't get to see someone for a long time and then you finally got to see them again? How did you feel? Did you have all kinds of emotions? Did you want to weep? I know COVID just happened. Were you able to see somebody during that time, or were you blocked from seeing them for a while? What kind of emotions did you have when you finally got to meet them? Or you may still not be able to meet them. So, things in the Bible we can take a look at and examine with our own life and how things are. What kind of thoughts or feelings came to your mind when we read this portion? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. My allergies are getting to me again. Okay. A silver cup and a sack. Now Joseph gave these instructions to the steward of his house. Fill the men's sacks with as much food as they can carry, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack. Then put my cup, the silver one, in the mouth of the youngest one's sack, along with the silver for his grain. And he did as Joseph said. As morning dawned, the men were sent on their way with their donkeys. They had not gone far from the city when Joseph said to his steward, "Go after those men at once, and when you catch up with them, say to them, 'Why have you repaid good with evil? Isn't this cup my master's drinks? Isn't this the cup my master drinks from and also uses for divination? This is a wicked thing you have done." Interesting. His brothers schemed and plotted against him. Now Joseph is using some tricks up his sleeve too. We'll see why. When he caught up with them, he repeated these words to them. But they said to him, "Why does my lord say such things? Far be it from your servants to do anything like that. We even brought back to you from the land of Canaan the silver we found inside the mouths of our sacks. So why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? If any of your servants is found to have it, he will die, and the rest of us will become my lord's slaves." "Very well then," he said, "let it be as you say. Whoever is found to have it will become my slave. The rest of you will be free from blame." Each of them quickly lowered his sack to the ground and opened it. Then the steward proceeded to search, beginning with the oldest and ending with the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. At this, they tore their clothes. Then they all loaded their donkeys and returned to the city. Transformation complete. So, to me, I feel like Joseph is testing his brothers to see what kind of character they really are now. Let's continue to read. Joseph was still in the house when Judah and his brothers came in, and they threw themselves to the ground before him. Joseph said to them, "What is this you have done? Don't you know that a man like me can find things out of divination?" He's lying to them. He's telling them that because that's what Egyptians did. They believed in sorcery and magicians and in crafts and gods, and so he's still playing the role. He's playing a part. What can we say to my lord? Judah replied. "What can we say? How can we prove our innocence? God has uncovered your servant's guilt. We are now my lord's slaves, we ourselves, and the one who was found to have the cup." But Joseph said, "Far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man who was found to have the cup will become my slave. The rest of you go back to your father in peace." Then Judah went up to him and said, "Please, my lord, let your servant speak a word to my lord. Do not be angry with your servant, though you are equal to Pharaoh himself." My lord asked his servants, "Do you have a father or a brother?" And we answered, "We have an aged father, and there is a young son born to him in his old age. His brother is dead, and he is the only one of his mother's sons left, and his father loves him. Then you said to your servants, bring him down to me so I can see him for myself. And we said to my lord, the boy cannot leave his father. If he leaves him, his father will die. But you told your servants, unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you will not see my face again. When we went back to your servant, my father, we told him what my lord had said. Then our father said, go back and buy a little more food. But we said, we cannot go down. Only if our youngest brother is with us will we go. We cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Your servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One of them went away from me, and I said, he has surely been torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. If you take... We know he hasn't torn to pieces. And I have not seen him since. If you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you will bring my gray head down to the grave in misery. So now, if the boy is not with us when I go back to your servant my father, and if my father, whose life is closely bounded up with the boy's life, sees that the boy isn't there, he will die. Your servants will bring the gray head of our father down to the grave in sorrow. Your servant guaranteed the boy's safety to my father. I said, if I do not bring him back to you, I will bear the blame before you, my father, all my life. Now then, please let your servant remain here as my lord's slave in place of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. How can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? No, do not let me see the misery that would come upon my father. Like I said, transformation complete. Judah is now taking up for his brother. He's being the protector. He's also willing to take his place. That's a very selfless act. Am I willing to take a selfless act such as that? You see that there's trouble up ahead. There's something that could go wrong. Do we place ourselves in harm's way ahead of someone else? Think about that. You can think about it in many different ways. Do you always have to have the best day? One thing that comes to mind, this may not come to your mind, but one thing comes to my mind is something as simple as a dinner setting. So you see that there's many choice foods. Do you run up and take the best item? Or do you allow for other people to take those items or take that best item, and you are okay with the scraps, or you are okay with not having the best? We are not to store up treasures here on earth. So there's many different ways to think about this. You can think about it as in being selfless in helping others, being selfless in your choices. Is it always about you? And I hear this a lot. It has to be about me. It has to be about me. I'm the only one that cares about me. Oh, really? The only one that cares about you is you. You know, I hear that saying a lot. And I'm always like, wait, did you see it? Did you see? Hold on. Because my face, my face reveals a lot. Like, I'm like, the only one that cares about you is you. Like, I have a living God. Like, I have Jesus. Like, who are you referring to? So think about that. Think about even in this situation. Judah, complete 180. From being selfish, being ignorant, selling his brother, being like, oh, I can't stand him, to being remorseful, trying to take the place of his youngest brother, protecting his youngest brother. What kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? He's thinking not only of his brother, but he's also thinking of his father. How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Joseph makes himself known. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, "Have everyone leave my presence." So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Come close to me." When they had done so, he said, "I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now, do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." So those bad situations could be for a reason. It's not acknowledging, or it's not saying that those bad situations are necessary or needed. It's saying that when you do end up in a bad situation, it could be turned to good. There's a lot here. And that's what he's telling his brothers. He wants his brothers to understand and to forgive themselves. For 2 years now, there has been a famine in the land. And for the next 5 years, there will not be plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. He wants them to, he knows that they have now acknowledged the wrong that they've done. He wants them to be able to grow and get stronger and do good. And that's what he's saying. I was sent here before you. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God. See, remember how the brothers were like, "Look what God did to us." But that's not the correct way. Joseph is saying, "You did sell me, but it wasn't because you sold me. It was because God was directing me here. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household and ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me, your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise, you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. You can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that it is really I who am speaking to you. Tell my father about all the honor accorded me in Egypt, and about everything you have seen, and bring my father down here quickly." Then he threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and wept, and Benjamin embraced him, weeping. And he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. Afterward, his brothers talked with them. When the news reached Pharaoh's palace that Joseph's brothers had come, Pharaoh and all his officials were pleased. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers, do this. Load your animals and return to the land of Canaan, and bring your father and your families back to me. I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you can enjoy the fat of the land." You are also directed to tell them, "Do this. Take some carts from Egypt for your children and your wives, and get your father and come. Never mind about your belongings, because the best of all Egypt will be yours." Amazing. Amazing. They weren't poor, but this was the time where everybody was becoming destitute because famine was so severe, and it was so severe it had only been 2 years, and there was going to be 5 more years. So The Lord was with them. Lord was providing them from sinners. These Egyptians, right? So Joseph's making a difference in the land of the Pharaoh. What kind of thoughts and feelings come to your mind? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. So the sons of Israel did this. Joseph gave them carts as Pharaoh had commanded, and he also gave them provisions for their journey. To each of them he gave new clothing, but to Benjamin he gave 300 shekels of silver and 5 sets of clothes. And this is what he sent to his father: 10 donkeys loaded with the best things of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread and other provisions for his journey. Then he sent his brothers away, and as they were leaving, he said to them, "Don't quarrel on the way." Typical family. Who has brothers and sisters? Or families, families with siblings. How many people fought in the car? Quarreled all the time. Don't touch me. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Look at me. Look at me. And it's like, hilarious. Hilarious. Just things to think about. I mean, okay, let's say you don't have siblings. You have friends and such, close people that you're close with. Don't quarrel. The quarreling's not necessary. The little nitpicking and stuff's not necessary. That's just funny. Let's continue to read. So they went up out of Egypt and came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. They told him, "Joseph is still alive. In fact, he is ruler of all Egypt." Jacob was stunned. He did not believe them. But when they told him everything Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the carts Joseph had sent to carry him back, the spirit of their father Jacob revived. And Israel said, "I'm convinced. My son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." All right. Let's do a quick review. We went from there being all the way back where Pharaoh had the dreams and Joseph interpreted them correctly from prison. He came from prison, interpreted the dreams, and then Pharaoh made him Lord over all Egypt. And Joseph, who was still walking the way, thank glory to God. He knew where it came from. He knew exactly where it came from. He knew God blessed him. He had that faith. He has that faith that we can have, definitely. We can all have. Every single person can have it. And showed how God gives in abundance, above and beyond our expectation. Joseph was in charge of Egypt, and he did excellent work. He did what he needed to do to store that grain in abundance. And then came time for the famine, and all the Egyptians relied on what God had told Joseph to do. And so things were going very well, to the point where Joseph's brothers, because the famine had entered all the lands, and so Joseph's brothers who were in Canaan were told by his father, the brothers were told, "What are you waiting for?" Get the move on. You got the information, you know what to do, go. Do it. And they went down to Egypt. Then Joseph was the only person that recognized them. The brothers didn't recognize that Joseph was there. So Joseph sent them food and on their way, but he kept one of them as a test. When they came back, the second journey to Egypt, and they realized that they had silver and stuff were returned to them. So they were scared and afraid, and they were also told that they had to bring Benjamin. So they were able to finally convince their father to let them take Benjamin. And Judah, of all persons, was the one that is showing a complete change. So Israel allows them to take his youngest son, Benjamin. Judah was in charge of him, back to Egypt. And then, of course, Joseph had another test for them to see if they really truly changed. And Judah put himself in front of Benjamin, because even though the cup was in Benjamin's sack, Judah was like, let me be the slave. Let the boy go. Let me do this. It's a selfless act. It showed complete transformation. God can use anybody, and sometimes it takes time for us to understand and learn and grow in wisdom. And then Joseph couldn't stand it no more, and he made himself known. And his brothers probably didn't understand the dream at first. They still may not understand the dream so much, but they kind of gotten the hint now. God works in mysterious ways, and he reveals things to those that he's going to reveal things to. So that concludes another Lamp Bible study. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that it brings you joy from the Lord. I hope it brings you the Lord's joy. Not just enjoy it as an entertainment, but the Lord's joy. You have that inside you, in your heart, in your soul, that yearning, that you want to continue to seek the Lord's wisdom and God's holy word. So thank you very much for joining me on another Lamp Bible study. They are released every Tuesdays and Thursdays on the YouTube channel. I do have a YouTube channel. There is a contact link for email address in the YouTube channel, as well as an Instagram page that you can check out anytime. There's also highlights and flashlights that will be posted. So, and if you have any questions, concerns, comments, please do leave them in the comment section, or send via email or chat on Instagram, DM, etc. And I hope these continue to be a blessing. I know they are very helpful for me, and I hope that this is very fruitful and helps others. So once again, wherever you are, have a blessed morning, a blessed day, a blessed afternoon, a blessed evening, a blessed night. God bless. Man, I feel like, oh, don't go away. I feel like the cupbearer just now, like, had to go for a walk, and I just realized that I forgot to say, please continue to pray for me, and I will always pray for you. And so thank you once again for joining another Lamp Bible study, and we'll be right here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So be ready, and thank you so much for joining. I hope we continue to seek God's wisdom through his holy word. And wherever you are, once again, have a blessed morning, a blessed day, a blessed afternoon, a blessed evening, and a blessed night. God bless.